Hey everyone, this is Jennifer Beamer, owner-operator of ExpertlyDyed Art by Science, and this is the daily vlog episode number 63, and today I wanted to talk about Longdraw. Before I left the Spinning and Weaving Guild in Leicester, before my move, there was a lovely duo that talked about their experience with Longdraw spinning as part of their master spinning course. And I got some really nice helpful insights based on their experience that kind of just clicked for me. Now, I talked about this more in depth during that faux live stream, so I will link it below so that you can go and check that out. But essentially, how you get it onto the hand cards matters. How much you use matters. Also things like the length of the wool, etc. And then the making of the rolags. It's one of those practice makes better situations. So I just, carded up maybe what I thought was about 50 grams or so. And then I just spun it to sort of see how things went. And I was really glad that I did, because it turned out that these little helpful tips, were what I needed to kind of overcome the hurdle of actually doing Longdraw. And so what I've produced now is this lovely white skein, which is a 2-ply and it's very bulky. It's unlike yarns that I typically make. But yeah, you can sort of see, I mean, it's very squishable as well, like very, very soft. And once it was all said and done, I was quite pleased with the result. And then I wrote down here all of the details. So I bought at, was it the Milton Keynes Rare Breed Festival? That was in September of 2021, I think. Yeah, that makes sense. 2021. And it was a blue-faced Leicester Shetland cross. And so it's got this really lovely sheen, but also this light, fluffy softness that I would associate with Shetland. And I got 106 yards and 70 grams, which is actually really, really good for as big as it is. It's very light and fluffy. And I don't know what to do with it. So there's 106 yards. I feel like that should be sufficient for a hat, but I don't wear hats. As you might guess, I'm basically wearing wool on my head. My hair is thick and it's curly. And so what often happens with me is my head just overheats and I sweat, right? Like dripping down sweat, and it's really gross. It also wreaks havoc on my hairstyle, which I don't like. I don't like having things on my head. Now, I think there's enough for a hat, but my partner doesn't really need a hat. And so I need some suggestions on what to do with this, because I feel like I have sort of stretched myself with all my other projects that I'm working on, that I can't think of anything else that would be useful with 106 yards and something that is woolen spun. But yeah, should I dye it? I think maybe I should dye it just to see what it's like to dye, because I did this for a different project. Wasn't woolen Longdraw, but it was sort of similar. It was spindle spun with my supported spindle, and it was also Shetland. And the dye just doesn't come out as strongly with Shetland, I found. Blue-faced Leicester, great at taking dye. Shetland, I feel like there's more to it. I've got the Fleece and Fiber source book, so I'll definitely review Shetland properly in the future. But it's kind of an interesting and historic breed, so I want to give it more dedication. Also, because there are quite a few people out there who are extremely passionate about Shetland, so I want to say all the right things. Now, I got the skein and it's just going to sit in my stash until I figure out what to do with it. So if you have any ideas, please offer some suggestions. So, if you have some ideas on what to do with this, I would be quite happy to hear your suggestions in the comments below. Another reason why I wanted to talk about this in this video, Longdraw, because I feel like now that I have practiced Longdraw in other live streams, so I did one live stream a few weeks ago where I did some art yarn spinning, and with that it allows me to sort of not focus on the thick and thin spots as much, because I kind of like that for an art yarn, but I actually want to spin something for a project. And so I was looking through my assortment of videos, the wool that I have on hand, and lining up projects now that I'm not working quite as insane weeks as I have been recently. I can actually stop and plan a little bit. What I want to do is have a Fiber Talk episode crossover Longdraw episode. And I have some wools that I've not been able to spin or set aside for a project or anything yet, but I have a sufficient amount to do that. So I think I'm going to use one of the wools that I've not talked about in a Fiber Talk episode for a project on Longdraw. And I think I have a sufficient amount of that wool for a sweater or maybe a cardigan, I don't know. But it's going to be more of a long-term project, and so the videos will probably be spaced quite distant between them. So I'll probably talk about the Fiber Talk episode first, and then the Longdraw element of it later, and then the project I'm actually going to use it for even later. So if you're interested in Longdraw, just be mindful that this particular project I have in mind might take a little while. For those of you out there who are still kind of struggling with Longdraw, might be new to it, might have had like the same issues with it that I do, where it needs to be perfect, but it's okay if it's a little bit thick and thin, because, you know, it sort of adds to the charm of hand spun yarn anyway. How do you feel about me doing more live streams where I just do Longdraw spinning? The reason why I say this is if there's sufficient interest in me doing Longdraw and talking about my experience throughout it and how this relates to my experience with different types of wool, that would be really insightful, I think, but it's also very time consuming to produce. Now, the reason why it is time consuming is because I have to make all the rollags with my hand cards, and you're probably only working with about 2 to 3 grams max per, and if a sweater is about 8 ounces minimum, that's going to take a while to get all that ready. And so with the investment of time, there's a lot of prep I have to do behind the scenes, which means that if you find this kind of beginner content really, really useful for educational purposes, like if it's helpful for you to listen to me talk about my experience as it's happening, because I am an experienced spinner, but I'm not as experienced with Longdraw, then please let me know in the comments below if you think this sort of content would be really useful for you. And if you have any suggestions on like maybe camera angles or things to discuss while I'm spinning, or some of the issues that you've had with kind of getting this to click with your hands, or your brain conceptualizing what it is you're doing, that would also be great to hear as well. But yeah, so if you're interested in Longdraw, I think I might want to do some Longdraw live streams in the future. But to get all of the fiber prepared, I need to do that by hand, one rollag at a time, and I will be probably doing that in the evenings when I'm relaxing after a long day working in a cafe. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this episode. I just wanted to talk about this final example of my faux live stream Longdraw, and what I should probably do with it, because I would like to use it for something, just so that I understand how the fabric works, and to get your thoughts about Longdraw spinning in the future, now that I'm slightly more confident that I can actually do it. A rolling commentary during live streams might be really useful for you, so please post in the comments below if that's helpful. Also, with my education, I have a Patreon account with a few patrons, and the goal of that is to help offset the costs of buying different wools, buying tools, and keeping education free. So even though I'm already putting all this content out there anyway, it's really nice to get a little bit of extra money for doing this, because I strongly believe that education should be free for all. And for those of you who can afford to pitch in basically the cup of coffee each month, then it keeps it accessible. And as you were probably aware watching this video, there's this threat of obsolescence, and what fiber arts and crafts in general can provide us is the opportunity to be creative, to learn valuable skills, to learn more about ourselves, to be able to support ourselves, adding beauty to the world. There's so many. Oh. Vera decided in that moment she was going to roll around underneath the camera. And now she's in the window. But yeah, so the whole point of doing what I do is to keep education freely available so that we don't lose skills. And if you're watching this video, you're probably aware that there's quite a lot out there, but there could always be more. And having more teachers, having more content out there, it's really useful for people who want to consume one idea, but from different perspectives, which is how I like to approach everything. I might have an idea, I'll research it and see this person's point of view and that person's point of view and so on, so that I can develop a more nuanced opinion about something, or so that I have a greater or more deep understanding of whatever it is that I'm researching. So the more that the community supports itself, the better. And so if you're interested, I have my Patreon, which is linked down below. Otherwise, I've got my ExpertlyDyed.com shop and the same on Etsy, so if you want to buy any of my products, that will also help me out as well. And if you just want to follow my socials, obviously YouTube, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and like this video. But I've also got Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook all linked below. Thanks for watching!